It was a big boy clash between Côte d'Ivoire and Egypt. Now, they had met twice in the AFCON. I think 3 times already. One in the 80s, 2006 that Egypt won on penalties, 2008 that they dominated in Kumasi. And this game, guys, I was quite surprised this game never gave us a goal in regulation time, either in extra time.
I wasn't surprised.
Why? Because I thought the game was open.
No, you see, it was open, but it wasn't. How do I put it? There were spaces, but they were not exploitable spaces. I think it was the Egyptians. If you've watched them this tournament and you watched them this game, they deployed a very interesting tactic, especially in defending.
Okay.
They sat off.
Yes.
But then when the ball entered or when it broke the front two, then they pressed. They pressed it back into the Ivorians' half, and then they sit off again. Yeah. So it was a very, I don't know what that sort of pressing is called, maybe half pressing or quarter pressing. But it was a very interesting, so when the Ivorians have the ball.
They weren't pressing high.
High, exactly.
Yes.
They will allow, yes.
So the mid-block.
Mid-block. So they allow Côte d'Ivoire to maybe bypass. Yes. They try and block spaces. Yes. If Côte d'Ivoire are able to bypass the front two, then they press and send them back. So the Ivorians were actually struggling. And you see, that's why I'm always talking about game plans. You identify your strengths and you try and use them to the best of ability. For the Ivorians, I think at a point they should have, like this Halle thing, it wasn't working out. It really wasn't working. Okay. Halle, for me, and I don't know if to go against the Ivorians or to give praise to Carlos Queiroz, but his deployment of Hegazi was brilliant. And Hegazi was on Halle, and then there was always an extra man to pick up the loose ball. Mm-hmm. So they always had about 2 or 3 players around Halle because they almost knew that if Côte d'Ivoire decided to go long, yes, they were going for Halle. So it was very interesting. When you saw this thing, even before the game, you kind of knew how Egypt would approach this particular game. And you knew that it wasn't going to be like the Algeria game where Algeria also play enterprising football, open up, and everybody will have space to operate. Côte d'Ivoire will really have to, we're really going to have to do their best and try and open the Egyptians up. And once Frankesi went off, especially creating from the middle became a bit difficult for them. Now they had to begin to go out wide. And by that time, the likes of Zaha and Pepe were frustrated. And you could tell the Egyptians were intentionally doing it, kicking him small, going at him a bit just to get him wound up. And it was never going to work. And once you got to penalties, I don't think Egypt loses on penalty shootouts. No,
they rarely do. They almost always get it right, even at club level. Phil, your thoughts on this? I thought we saw a different Egypt to the team that we saw in the group stage, a team that played almost stagnant football. Like they managed to find it in bits and pieces. I thought against Côte d'Ivoire, they were almost fluid from the very beginning.
Yeah, they were. In fact, the first half, they were the much better team.
I think that was why I thought they were going to score.
Yeah. They looked like they had the game under control. Their passing was way better. Their build-up play was better. They found openings. And I think just overall, I always say this, like in football, there are always certain clashes that don't matter about form. And I think this is one of those games. Côte d'Ivoire, every time they come up against Egypt, they always seem to fall short. And I don't understand why, but the Egyptians always seem to have the Ivorians' numbers, whether it's from AFCON 2008 here or whether it's from 2010. Everywhere they've met them, they've dealt with them with cheeky ease, like Christopher likes to say. And yesterday, Egypt were actually the much better team. If anybody deserved to win that game in regulation time, it was them. And I think sometimes, and yesterday we made that point about when you're never aware when the big players will step up. Yesterday, I thought they were brilliant, and I thought the bigger players were quite effective. Like Hegazi, he had a really good game yesterday.
I thought Queiroz managed to get a lot out of the supporting cast.
And even Sorby himself at some point. Salah, for the first time, he was actually quite involved in the game. I think against Nigeria, we saw that he was marked out of the game, barely had any touches. Yesterday, he had a few shots. And he brought in other teammates into the game as well. So it was overall a very good game to watch. Generally, from a neutral point of view, I really just enjoyed the football. But again, I like to stress the fact that yesterday the game was actually played between the two goalkeepers. We talk about the quality of goalkeeping and the saves that they made
some of the saves
in regulation time were brilliant. And it's yes, Sangare in the penalty shooter. That's a different conversation.
I was a little worried when the Egyptians lost Shenawi because I figured
two different goalkeepers who had two. I don't know how to put it, but it was almost like no change was made. The consistency was the same,
the quality was the same.
It really was brilliant to watch because a lot of the saves were not easy saves.
They weren't.
Even else, the save of Halle, that's not an easy save to make because Halle was really close to the pole to get that header in and get that and tip it over the bar. This as well. I mean, it looks easy, but we've seen them beat players, and he saved another deflection that I thought was quite difficult to save. So, the two goalkeepers yesterday, they covered themselves in a lot of glory. But then again, when it goes to the penalty shootout, the one that fails to make a save, more likely than not, you're not going to win.
I have a serious problem with Trezeguet. A serious problem.
Yeah, Mahmoud
Trezeguet. Look, when you're in a game plan like that where you don't go out with the intention of creating a lot of opportunities, your decision making in the final third becomes very important. What you do with the ball when you have it in the dangerous areas becomes very important.
What you do without the ball,
I'm talking about with the ball, especially when he has the ball. Extra time, Egypt should have won. Honestly, I think it was the second half of extra time. Yes, they should have won the game. There were two glorious opportunities where Salah fed him in, and twice all he needed to do was to cut the ball back to Salah, and he always decides to shoot. And I'm asking myself, who are you? You are just Trezeguet. He's right-footed. The ball is on your left foot.
Clearly,
you shoot the first time, it goes over the bar. The second time, you have another opportunity to pass to the best player on the continent, who is your captain, who is on the field, who is left-footed. Now, when you cut the ball back, it will land on his favorite foot and probably use. And you are shooting again. I would have subbed him immediately. No, because I don't get it. Opportunities like that don't come often. So when you get them, you expect the player to do much better. And for somebody with his experience, he's been shooting all his career. How many goals has he scored? Just cut the ball back for Salah and let him score. And he's insisting on shooting all the time.
Oh, Daniel,